What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Browns Beat podcast. I am Derek.
And I am Tristan.
And he is Tristan, and we got a lot to talk about today for the Cleveland Browns. A lot of news going on with the quarterbacks here, so that's what we're going to kick it off with today. As you can see on the background, Deshaun Watson, who the Browns obviously traded for and then extended on a massive contract. We've been talking about the issues going on surrounding Deshaun Watson and obviously the cases. News has been broke that 20 of the 24 cases have been settled. The belief is that the other 4 will be settled eventually, and then shortly to come, a suspension will be handed out. So, Tristan, what do you think about this news that Deshaun has officially settled 20 of 24 and looking to settle the others?
Yeah, it's a hard topic to talk about just because it's really hard to uh to say factual information and not sound biased in these cases. And if we lay out the facts, he wasn't tried criminally, but of course, as we all know, when it comes to cases involving sexual assault, they're some of the hardest to prove because if you don't have DNA evidence or you don't have video evidence or audio evidence, there's a high likelihood you're not going to get them charged in court. So, I think when it comes to judging Deshaun Watson, the person, it's hard because you want to believe these women, but you also want to believe somebody who's adamantly saying he didn't do it. For me personally, the settlement doesn't make him guilty or innocent. It just means that these women, they got their damages, and I think that again, it's just so tough when this topic comes around. To be able to talk about it in a way that is strictly factual, because I think that Deshaun, he's going to have to he's going to have to be a very good citizen moving forward in order to repair his image, just because this has totally ruined his image, and there's going to be a lot of people that look at these settlements and say it's an admission of guilt. Even if it's not, it could just be he's tired of the heat. He's tired of constantly being the number one headline in the news. And, I can understand that, but, I don't know. It's so tough to judge. And when we talk about the football side of things, right, which, obviously the off the field stuff is not pretty. And when we transition into the football side of things, I almost do wonder, even though the NFL has said that, the settlements aren't going to impact his suspension, I feel like it will. I think that he got information that, hey, if you settle, you might end up getting a reduced sentence. I don't know that for a fact, but, for a guy who just earlier in the week was adamant in the press conferences talking about how, he's looking to clear his name, he's not looking to settle, and then later in the week just to settle, it just doesn't add up for me. I think that we're going to know more information as it progresses later on, but it definitely doesn't look good for him. I will say that much. But transitioning into the football side of things, I'm expecting that he's going to get anywhere between 8 to 10 games. I think that the NFL themselves are going to push for a year, but I was doing some reading up on the NFLPA spokesperson. Like, I think it's an NFLPA spokesperson. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but essentially, coaches love him because he gets their players back on the field, and the people within the NFL hate him because he's so good at his job. And there have been coaches quoting him talking about he's amazing at what he does. So I think what's going to end up happening is the league is going to push for a full year. The PA is going to push for no suspension at all, and they're going to meet right in the middle and say 8 games. That's what I think when it comes to suspension. So, I don't want to say too much. I'm not saying I believe he's innocent or guilty. I just think that right now, there is still a lot of information that needs to come to light. I think that the HBO special definitely brought some information to light, but I don't think it brought everything. There's court documents that brought some things to light. Ultimately, the only people that are going to know the real truth is Deshaun and those women. So, with that, I guess I'll hand that question off to you. What do you think of the Deshaun Watson stuff?
Well, I wasn't really surprised necessarily that Deshaun decided to settle and is looking to settle with the rest because first of all, I think there was an agreement here, a under the table, quiet agreement between the NFL and Deshaun Watson because in my opinion, the NFL has kind of used Deshaun as the poster boy to hide all the other stuff that the NFL is going through right now. You look at the Dan Snyder stuff, you look at the Brian Flores stuff. And Deshaun, in my opinion, was kind of a way to throw him out in front and hide the other stuff behind him. Well, now the Snyder stuff is starting to get out ahead of Deshaun. And, obviously there's still the stuff there with Flores, but the NFL, I think, is hit the point with this whole situation where they can no longer have all of this stuff tarnishing the name of the National Football League. So my guess would be that the NFL looked at this from the standpoint of this is not going away anytime soon. If Deshaun was to continue to fight, try to clear his name, with civil cases and everything like that, this was going to be a very, very long process here. I was trying to think of what what word to say, but
Yeah.
it's going to be a long process. So, I mean, I just kind of feel like the NFL said, all right, dude, listen, if you do this for us, we will try our best to lessen a suspension. I agree with you. I think the worst case scenario is a full season, but I personally do not believe that. I think you're looking at, like you said, an 8 to 10 is my guess. But at the same time, I really wouldn't be surprised if you got a 6 game or if you got a 12 game.
Yeah.
The NFL is so inconsistent with this.
Yeah, and to kind of tag on to the end of what you just said there with the 8 games, part of the reason why I also believe it's going to be 8 games is because the Browns don't really play any significant opponents the first half of their season. So in not only that, but the NFL loves storylines. The NFL loves to create eyeballs. And what a storyline it would be if Deshaun came back and made his NFL debut against the Miami Dolphins, the team that wanted to trade for him originally, the team he was going to settle with all these women with to facilitate a trade to. That would be an interesting storyline to come back. Of course, a few games later, you've got the Houston Texans, his former team that he'd be playing against. I believe that one's actually in Texas too. So that would be interesting. So,
Yeah, it's in Houston.
I think when you look at the way that the schedule was crafted, all the Browns' easier opponents are in the first half of the year. It's almost like they kind of had their mind made up prior to like what his ideal suspension is going to be. And I think I've got a gut feeling it's going to be 8 games. Like you said, it could be 6, it could be 12, it could be a full year. There's no there's no what's the word for it? There's no
Precedent?
for sure. Yeah, precedent. Yes, because there's never been a situation like this. I mean, you can say Ben Roethlisberger, but even then, that was completely different because he was found guilty of a lot of terrible things in court. So, but either way, doesn't make Deshaun a better person. That's not why I'm bringing that up. I'm just saying when it comes to NFL punishment, I don't think we've had a situation like this where we've been able to see like how the person's going to get reprimanded in these situations. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to determine what the suspension is going to be, but I do believe that it's going to be around that 8-game mark.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's tough because the NFL is using this outsourced judge, I guess would be the right way of saying it, to determine this. So,
third-party investigator, I think, or
yep,
something.
third-party investigator. And that, in my opinion, almost makes it even more unpredictable because when the NFL is so back and forth on, what they do for suspensions. Then you have something this big and it's being handled by, a different style of determining suspensions.
Mhm.
I don't know. I could really see it going either way. I think if you are a person who is locked on that it's going to be a full year, I think you're crazy. I think if you think that it's going to be multiple years, you just flat out do not understand or know football or the NFL in general. It's not. He's going to serve a very hefty suspension for sure,
Yeah.
but I don't believe it's going to be as severe as a lot of people think. Now, I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but that is something we're just going to have to see.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that with the third party investigator, it's going to make it really unpredictable because that third party person might say, listen, nothing was found in court. Everything else was just, he said, she said. So no games, right? Like that's a possibility. It's unlikely, but it's a possibility. Um, you know, but there's so many points to this that just make it hard to predict.
Absolutely. And hopefully we're going to have a resolution. That's the word I was looking for.
Yep.
Resolution here shortly. And speaking of hoping for resolutions here shortly, some news surrounding this man, Baker Mayfield. We know the market for him has been a little bit limited so far. We've heard really two teams, the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks kind of went quiet for a while, but their name is now back into the race, and it's starting to become a bidding war. But Trista, what do you think of Seattle now throwing their hat back in the Baker Mayfield race, and when do you think this is going to get done?
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who didn't see the news or didn't see anything that came out, Josina Anderson last night, we're recording this on June 23rd, so it would have been June 22nd. She sent out a tweet saying essentially that the Seahawks still have a high level of interest in Baker Mayfield, and they're even looking into extending him if he were to get traded to the Seahawks, which is definitely really interesting. I as far as Baker Mayfield, the football player, he's had one spectacular season with us his rookie year. He's had a good season with us the year that he took us to the playoffs. He's had a bad year with us with his second year in the league. And then he had a flat out terrible year last year. So he's been all over the place. I don't understand why Seattle would look to extend him from that perspective. But hey, listen, if they feel like they can get a bargain bin deal for him, hey, listen, push your luck, do it, Um, but as far as the two teams in general who are interested, Seattle or Carolina, I would have thought for sure Carolina would be the team that's more desperate to get it done, just because Matt Rule, if he doesn't have success this year, he's going to be fired. Like there were talks of him getting fired last season. If they don't find success at all this year, he's gone. Like, so I excuse me, sorry. I would have thought for sure that the Panthers would be the team to end up with him. With this news of Seattle, it doesn't necessarily shock me because I knew that they were interested. I knew they needed a quarterback, but I felt like the desperation of the Panthers would have willed this over the line sooner. That doesn't mean that he won't go there, but now it's almost like he might just say no, I don't want to go to play for you guys because Seattle's going to extend me, So it's definitely an interesting development in the story. I just really hope it ends soon. I want it to end soon so that way we can not have it be a talking point going into camp. And Derek, before we started recording, I was telling you, it almost feels as though like a deal is either going to get done before camp starts or we're going to have to wait until somebody gets injured before Baker gets dealt. So I'm going to stick by that. I think that if he's going to get dealt, I mean, it could happen during this recording. That would be really good, interesting news. Actually, I just got a tweet. No. It's Rappaport, though. Wait. No, never mind. Okay, no. So, no. But anyways, sorry about that. But yeah, no, it could happen, while we're recording. It could happen in a week from now, or it could happen in a few months. No definition. So I just want this to be over with quickly, but hey, Andrew Berry's going to do his thing, and if he gets us a good pick for this, then it'll definitely be worth it.
Absolutely. And you bring up a couple really good points here. So, what you said about Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers, to me, this is what makes it the most interesting and why I think there is behind the scenes a little bit of a bidding war. Now, when you say bidding war, a lot of times that means very high value picks, like, who's going to give up the most for a guy like an AJ Brown, or somebody of that caliber. I think when it comes to Baker, it's more so from the standpoint of what you said. Matt Rule is either going to be fired this year or after this season or possibly during the season. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or he's not, or he's going to be their guy. I don't see them giving him any more chances. If he's mediocre or he's middle of the road, I think he's gone. I think he has to be a really, really good coach, or at least show that this team can be very competitive at the very least. So from that standpoint, that's a major storyline. But you also got to look at Seattle. They have Pete Carroll, who is an older coach. They have a really good running back room, in my opinion, now that they've added Kenneth Walker to that room with Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, and obviously Walker now. The wide receiver core is pretty solid. Obviously DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett there, and they added Noah Fant. They're continuing to rebuild that offensive line. They've been building that defense for a while now. They're still obviously in a rebuild, but with Pete Carroll's age, I cannot imagine that they are going to want to sit around and rebuild for the next 2 to 3, 4 years versus going out and getting a Baker Mayfield, to where you kind of saw that when he was early on in Cleveland, especially, his rookie season. That was not a complete team, but he was enough fire to spark something in that offense to where they were getting real production. It wasn't consistent, but he was making plays. So I think that's kind of the biggest storyline for me, is who wants it more? Who's more desperate to win now? And as far as the whole situation, apparently the Browns are now willing to eat more of the contract, which they should have always been.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, this could go on now for a long time, and we could be waiting into the season, or it could happen very soon, because one of the things that people forget, Baker is still rehabbing, so that's big on his side of things. B, he's going to have to learn another new offense. This is going to be like his 6th offense in the NFL. So if you're getting a guy who's going to be the starter, which either team he goes to, whether if it's Seattle, he's going to start over Drew Lock, or Carolina, he's going to beat out Sam Darnold. You want to get your starter ready ASAP. So there, in my opinion, there's got to be some urgency here of this whole waiting game and staring contest. Somebody has to pull the trigger. I mean, I can't see this going on much longer. But go ahead, Tristan.
Yeah, Carolina, they have a really good young defense. They've got an offense with a couple of studs in there, with Christian McCaffrey, with DJ Moore. They've got a good tight end group. Their offensive line, it's not great, but it's not bad. Like, they have enough there to be a playoff team in the NFC. So when I look at it from that perspective, and I see Matt Rule is potentially going to get fired, I say, like, they should be all in on Baker, because he's the best option that they've got. If he leads them to the playoffs, Matt Rule's got job security.
Yep.
Like, that's the reality. With Seattle, I mean, listen, they've got a lot of good pieces there. I don't think Baker does as much of an impact there as he would in Carolina, just because that division that he'd be walking into is really tough, and it's one of the best divisions in football. So I wouldn't necessarily say, it would be a slam dunk that, he could walk into that division and instantaneously make the Seahawks that second place team in that division. So I almost do think that there's incentive for the Seattle Seahawks not to do it. But hey, if they feel like Baker's the guy, go for it. You certainly you've got a lot of key players on that team in Seattle who, I feel like I feel like you need to be a good team in order to keep them around. Like DK Metcalf, he came out earlier this offseason saying, "Oh no, the front office and the team told me that we're going to be a winning team. Like we're going to try to win and we're going to be a good team." Like, you're not going to do that with Drew Lock or Geno Smith as your starter. That's just reality. So I think it's definitely getting really interesting around Baker, and I'm really looking forward to the resolution with him, because then we can just kind of go into camp. We'll obviously have the Deshaun stuff over our heads and stuff like that, which is, we knew that, but we at least won't have this storyline as well feeding into it. So, I'm looking forward to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the end is near.
I agree.
It has to be. I just see no way that it's not for me personally. So obviously, wish Baker the best on his next team, but
Yeah.
this needs to come to an end here shortly for his sake, for his new team's sake. It's just what it's going to have to be. So, talking more about some news topics for the day here. Yesterday, an interesting news story popped up with one Mr. Joe Haden posting some Brown stuff on his Instagram story. Now, I noticed a while back he posted a picture on Twitter, I want to say, of Joe Haden in a Steelers uniform and then in a Browns uniform. And I didn't really think much of it, but I thought it was interesting that he did post, some Brown stuff. And then yesterday, what happens? It seems like Joe Haden might be or might be interested, I should say, in coming back to the Browns. And I can't confirm anything, but I have seen something. I can't remember where it's from that said there might be mutual interest. So, Tristan, Joe Haden returning possibly. Would that be something you'd be interested in?
It's definitely interesting. I don't know as though he's a player that we need. However, he's still a talented corner. He was still the number one corner on the Steelers last year, in my opinion. So I think like there's a talented player there still. Obviously I have some profound love for Joe Haden, because he's a Browns player who, like, during some of the darkest times for the Browns, he was always one of like the bright lights. He always played well. He always was, a hard worker. He obviously enjoyed being in Cleveland. It's weird because he went to our rival, but I think at the end of the day, Joe Haden, he's most interested in going to a team he feels he can win the Super Bowl with. And with Deshaun Watson on this roster now, it's almost like a challenge for the defense, where for throughout Deshaun's entire suspension, their job is to keep this team in a position where we can get to playoffs and help out Jacoby Brissett. And I think that a lot of the players in the defense are intrigued by that challenge. And I think that Joe Haden, he provides a lot of experience, and I would like to see it. I just don't know who you bump out, because obviously you've got your locks with Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and MJ Emerson, because we just drafted him. Greedy Williams, I'd assume, is a lock as well. AJ Green was an amazing player out of the slot last year. So, that's five guys there already. Is Joe going to be our sixth corner on the roster? Man, I don't know. Like, are we looking to carry six corners on the roster? Maybe. I don't know. Is like, where would he fit in is my question. Who are we getting rid of to bring in Joe Haden? I don't see the fit personally, but I would be lying if I said if I saw the news pop up on my phone, I wouldn't be excited. I definitely would be. But, it's something I don't see fitting personally. But, even if he doesn't come to the Browns or anything like that, I still wish him all the best, and I hope he goes to a team he feels he can contend with, because it's clear that he's kind of nearing the end of his career. And I almost wonder if, he'd like to come back to Cleveland and, focus on winning a championship with the team he started it all with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay. Here's how I look at this. The conversation of the cornerback room, and we're going to get into ranking the Browns positions. here in a minute. But I think that Joe Haden is a very, very good football player, obviously. And at 33 years old, he's going to be cheap. And I don't think he's somebody that you necessarily have to get rid of somebody, if that makes sense. What I could see is guys who are being used as corners being used almost in different roles, maybe playing, a little bit of the slot, maybe strong safety, like we've talked about with Emerson. I
Yeah.
personally would like that. But Haden, my fit personally that I would like to see is Joe Haden and Greedy really rotating on the outside, where you could almost push back Emerson to develop more. I know the spots, like, it's hard to find that number. Are you going to keep 6 corners like you said? But I think Joe Hayden's veteran leadership, and I think he's still very, very good, could be valuable for the Browns. I think the Browns need a vet in that room. It's still very young. Ward is, I want to say, the oldest, I believe.
I think so. Because it was Hill, but he obviously got dealt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Denzel Ward is the oldest in that room. I want to say, yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, and I mean, honestly, like, it would definitely be exciting bringing Joe back. Like I said, it's just, it's hard to tell with the squad numbers, where would he fit? But, if we did bring him back, I would be excited. And, I'm already confident in our corner depth. Like, outside of MJ Emerson, just because he's a rookie, I don't know what we're going to see out of him or how well he's going to play in that slot, in that role in corner. But, I certainly would be intrigued by adding Joe Haden.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be cheap. My guess would be a 1-year deal, maybe 2 years cheap. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would do it. If he's open to it and you can find a way to make it work, I would do it. I mean, you never can have too many corners. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think he's valuable.
Yeah, especially with the Browns, like with our division specifically, about how pass heavy a lot of these teams are. One injury in the corner room can derail everything. And I mean, we don't have we've seen it over the years. We don't have the most, injury resistant corner room. I mean, there were points last year where we were missing both Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome, our two starters. So I could see a world where, we decide we're going to carry extra corners on the roster and Joe Haden fits in. I could see it. And then in that case, it makes a lot of sense. So, but real quick, actually, Derek, did you also want to talk about the Browns' plans for a dome? Did we want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. You want to transition into that?
That'll work.
Sounds good. Go ahead.
All right. So hold on. Now I got to think about how to do it.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. It was something that popped up in my head. Got really excited.
No, you're
about
good.
It, so.
You're good. So we have some other news here on the topics of the day, and that is the stadium behind you there, First Energy Stadium. Now, the Browns are, and I've kind of heard this conversation for a little bit now. What about a dome? What about a retractable roof? Well, apparently the Haslams are looking into a whole new stadium, which would include a dome. And Tristan, how do you feel about that? Because there's a lot of mixed feelings on it. A lot of people get sensitive when you talk about it, and I don't know. I'll talk about it after you, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so here's my opinion, and there's two parts of my opinion. There's the economic side of things, and there's the football side of things. The economic side of things will tell you building a dome would be amazing for the city of Cleveland. You could attract more concerts, more ways to fill out a venue, just because not everything can be outdoors, So I think building the dome would make a lot of sense. From that perspective, I think it would just be more beneficial, bring in more money and bring more money for the city, right? Then the football side of things. I understand the people that say that they think that, the Browns have a home field advantage when it comes to open roof. Honestly, I don't see it. I mean, we've played in a bunch of bad weather games over the years, and it's almost never gone in our favor. I think that what's best is what will be the most entertaining, which is a dome. I think that at the end of the day, the best teams in the NFL are the teams that can pass all over the field, are teams that can, pretty much do everything you want when it comes to with the football, but it's revolved mostly around the pass game. And I think the Browns should build a dome. And I think, a lot of teams that are in the cold are moving in that direction. Retractable roof, I'd definitely be open to it 100%. I'd like it, I think. I think that's the best solution is a retractable roof. So that way some games you can have it, some games you don't have to. But when it comes to us in particular, like the amount of games that we've lost because we couldn't throw the football, right? The amount of games that we've lost because our kicker couldn't kick in the strong wind conditions. I'm tired of seeing the weather affect our team's performance. And no Super Bowl is going to be played in the cold weather again. None. It's going to be in warm weather environment. So why not build a team that could be like most that could, what are the words I'm looking for? Why not build a team that's going to be able to play in the environment that they need to play in the game that would bring us a championship, right? Which is most likely going to be a dome or a retractable roof or somewhere warm where they're not going to have to worry about it. So I just feel as though the dome, retractable roof, it's the best situation. I really strongly feel that way. I think that ultimately it would be the best of both worlds for not only just the Browns but the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings on this. So the dome, I just can't sell myself on at this moment. I don't like watching football in domes, but retractable roof, I am all for. And it's kind of weird because I'm not super high on a dome right now. But if you give me a retractable roof, I'll be elated. I'll be thrilled because here's the thing. I think football is meant to be played outside. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But this would be a way that you could still do that and also, like you just talked about with the weather and stuff like that, you can adjust. So, and the other thing, Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is right there. Right there. How many major concerts and major I can't even, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like concerts every day and
Yeah.
there's different bands that come in, like they could hold an event like that yearly because of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And another thing, obviously, if you've known my channel, I do talk about professional wrestling. WrestleMania would come to Cleveland, but the only thing that people are saying as far as that is, oh, it's just WrestleMania. Well, the WWE is now moving events like SummerSlam into big stadiums. It's going to be at Nissan Stadium this year where the Titans play. They have the Royal Rumble at big stadiums now. And you can't tell me that Cleveland, Ohio would not be a good spot for one of those major events. They would 100% bring an event like that into the new Browns Stadium. So when you combine the rock and roll thing, being in Cleveland, you combine, other events going into bigger stadiums, it just makes too much sense for me. And plus, the history is there. Cleveland, Ohio is a historic sports town. And I think events would go there, Final Fours, stuff like that. It makes too much sense to me. And plus, I mean, Tristan, let's be real here. $230 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
$230 million guaranteed. You
Mm-hmm.
went out there and spent that money. Deshaun Watson can play outside. Nobody's saying he can't.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to invest that money, I want to get the damn best that you can give me. And if that means playing in a dome or with a retractable roof like they had in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's why I think they're really investing in this.
Yeah. And I mean, the Bills did it with Josh Allen. They paid him all that money, and now look at them. They're going to be building. I don't know if it's a retractable roof or dome, but they're going to be, building something pretty much that way you can get the most exciting Josh Allen that you can get. So, I agree with it. And, to kind of, elaborate on what you were saying about like the events and stuff, could you imagine how awesome it would have been when, oh geez, what's his name? The MMA fighter from Cleveland. I'm losing my mind.
Stipe Miocic.
Yeah, Stipe Miocic. Could you imagine how awesome it would have been while he had the title, defending it in Cleveland?
Oh, dude.
That would have been an unbelievable event, right? And so, we couldn't do it. We missed out on that because we didn't have a venue to support it. Now, if we did have the retractable roof, and I almost think the retractable roof would be the best of both worlds because, listen, if you're desperate to have the football games outdoors, we can have the football games outdoors. Sure, right? Unless it's severe weather. But, then for other events and stuff like that, we can have the roof closed. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a ton of sense. And I think, again, like you said, you invested this much money into Deshaun Watson, get the most out of it.
Yep.
Break ground on that stadium, get the retractable roof up, and let's call it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because Deshaun has now multiple times said he wants to finish his career in Cleveland.
Yeah.
That is not something that I would take lightly if I'm the Haslams. I would take that as, take him at his word. Notice what you're building here in Cleveland and, get it done. It just makes too much sense to me. So that kind of wraps up the news portion of today's podcast. So what we are going to do for you guys here today is we're going to go through the Browns roster. I have it pulled up here, and we are going to rank the position groups. I would say let's give it a letter grade. So let's start with the most important group here, the quarterback position. Now, I'm going to leave Baker Mayfield out of this.
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't make sense at this point to throw him in.
Yeah.
So our quarterback room is currently Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, and Josh Dobbs. Tristan, give me a grade for the Cleveland Browns quarterback room.
I'm going to say, this is tough. For this season, I'm going to give it an A-. And I would go A+ if it weren't for the fact Deshaun's going to get suspended. And like we said, anticipating the games. If Deshaun, we were guaranteed he was playing the full season, it's an A. It would be an A+ if we had seen him with Stefanski the year before. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just don't know exactly how he's going to translate. But, when it comes to the Browns quarterbacks, obviously you've got Deshaun, who's the mega talented one of 20 guys in the world who can do this at an unbelievable level. So you obviously have that guy, but then behind him, you've got Jacoby Brissett, who has a year of starting experience under his belt, who has started games before, has come in as a backup before. And then you've got the same exact thing with Josh Dobbs. So, how could you not rate it at least an A-? So I'll say A- because of the suspension. If it was without the suspension, it would be an A. So how about you, Derek?
Yeah, I think I'm right along the same lines with you. Obviously, Deshaun is awesome. But people don't realize how good Jacoby Brissett is. I've been watching more tape of him and trying to refresh my memory. He's better than people think. Now, is he a starter? No. But Jacoby has also not been on a team like the Browns. He's never had this offensive line. He's never had this run game. This is probably really close as far as weapons go when you factor in tight ends and receivers and running backs for him to work with. So Jacoby Brissett is a damn good quarterback when you surround him with some good talent. Don't get that crossed up. So Dobbs is a solid number 3. He brings mobility and size and experience. So you can't be mad at that for a third string quarterback, especially with his legs. I'm excited about that. But when you look at it, 26 years old, 27 years old, and 29. None of these guys are super, super old.
No.
6'2", 6'3", and 6'4". I like that right there. And
Yeah.
they're all pretty decently big. 215 pounds, 216 pounds, 235 pounds. So
Yeah. We might
it's
see some slants
definitely
over the middle
different.
this year, you know? Might see
Yeah,
some
yeah.
slants. Yeah.
So I agree with you. I would grade our quarterback room probably about an A minus. You know, uh, factoring in Deshaun is definitely a big part here. So let's move on to the easy A plus, and obviously we can make this quick.
Yeah.
Running back room: Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford, or Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Dearness Johnson as of now, Jerome Ford, Demetric Felton.
That's as good of a running back room as you're ever going to see in the NFL. So yeah, A plus, easy.
Yep,
Don't
absolutely
even need
A
to
plus.
elaborate.
I would even say A plus if Dearness Johnson was traded. I think I have confidence in
Yeah.
Jerome Ford.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. A plus,
And
100%.
we've talked about Felton. We both love Felton too, so everybody wants to
Oh yeah.
sleep on him. We'll skip over fullback just because Johnny Stanton's good. We like him. I'd say he's I don't even know what I would grade fullbacks at,
I guess
but
B, if
yeah,
we're grading it in the retrospect of all the fullbacks in the NFL, he's not up there with the Pat Ricards or the Kyle Juszczyks, but he's solid. He's a B.
yep, absolutely. And then let's look at the wide receiver room here. So Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, Jakeem Grant, Anthony Schwartz, and then we're going to look at some of the younger guys. When you look at Isaiah Weston, Michael Woods, got Javon Wims here on the roster, Jamarcus Bradley.
Yeah.
What would you currently grade a wide receiver room?
I'm gonna go probably B minus. I think that there's a lot of potential in the Browns receiver room, but not a lot of proven guys besides Amari Cooper, of course. If there was no Amari Cooper, this room would probably be getting a C minus D plus, right? But you have Amari Cooper, so it brings you up to a B minus. And I'm not saying that because I don't like our guys in the receiver room. I do like them. I like them a lot. Excuse me. This is a room that I feel as though you could see jump up to an A this year if everybody hits their ceiling. If everybody in this room hits their ceiling, this room could compete with the Bengals room, which is crazy to say it now, but it could if everybody hits their ceiling. How likely is that? Fairly unlikely, just because it's very rare that you see everybody play to their full potential in the NFL. So for that, I'm going to say B minus. I like Amari Cooper. Everything else is kind of a question mark.
Yeah, this is tough because right now I'm sitting where you are at a B minus or a C plus. I'm leaning more towards C plus.
Mm-hmm.
I think Amari Cooper is fantastic. I think that Donovan Peoples-Jones, I'm way higher on him than most people are.
Yeah.
I love David Bell. I think David Bell is going to be a massive, massive addition to the offense this season. His consistency, I believe, is going to be out of this world.
Yeah, and
But
don't even sleep on Jakeem Grant either.
yeah, and that's where I was going. I think what's tough for me is when you get to that second level. When you look at Jakeem Grant, what's his involvement going to be in the offense? What's Anthony Schwartz going to do this year? Does Isaiah Weston make the roster? Michael Woods, what's going to happen with those two guys? And then you have Reliable with Jamarcus Bradley, but
Absolutely.
how much is he going to play? So I think when you look at the room as a whole, I'm going to say C plus. But if you're going to give me just those top three guys I named of Amari Cooper, DPJ, and then where did he go? David Bell. I would grade that personally at a B plus. I think all three of those guys are going to be way, way better than people think. But like you said, it's more about potential than anything right now. So I will grade them a C plus. You said B minus. We're pretty close there.
Yeah.
Moving on to the tight end room, we have David Njoku, obviously Harrison Bryant, and then we got a lot of kind of random guys here.
Yeah,
So
no proven vets, right?
we'll just grade the top two there with Njoku and Bryant. What would you grade that pairing there?
Oof, this is tough. Man, that's really tough. Just because I like them both a lot when it comes to what they've proven on the field. David Njoku hasn't putting up the numbers, but I do believe in him. I believe he's going to have a breakout year this year. If I'm looking at Harrison Bryant, he's been really good for us the past couple of years. I'm anticipating another step up. If I'm grading this solely on what they've produced, I'm saying a B. If I'm grading this on what I think the potential is and what I've personally seen, I would probably say A.
Yeah, I'm gonna grade this currently at a B minus. I would like to see another vet added to this room. I think Harrison Bryant has incredible, unbelievable potential. I think he could be fantastic, but like you said, gonna need to see it more. So as of now, that's what I'm gonna grade it at. But I think that's a heck of a tight end room there
Yeah.
for the future with Njoku and Harrison Bryant.
Yeah, and I'll solidify and I'll say B plus is my grade.
Okay, that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going each offensive line position, I'm just going to link the offensive line as a whole just to save some time.
Yeah, agreed.
So looking at the offensive line, I will name some off for you here. Our centers, you're looking at Nick Harris, Ethan Pochich, Dawson Deaton. Your guards, you're looking at Joel Bitonio, Michael Dunn, Drew Forbes. Can't pronounce his name. Blake Hance, David Moore, Wyatt Teller. And then your tackles, you're looking at Ben Petrulia, Jack Conklin, Chris Hubbard, James Hudson, Elijah, can't pronounce his last name, Alex Taylor, and Jedrick Wills Jr. That is the current roster of offensive linemen for the Cleveland Browns. Tristan, what would you grade this? I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say A, and the reason why is just because our tackles haven't been healthy. If everybody's healthy, it's an A plus.
Yep. It's funny because I think we're thinking the exact same here. I would grade it also at an A, maybe an A minus, just because I want to see Jedrick Wills be more consistent. I'm not worried about Nick Harris taking over. Obviously, our two guards are unbelievable. Don't need to worry about them. Conklin's health is a concern, yes, but Hubbard, I think, is definitely good enough to step in if need be. I like Blake Hance also as a swing tackle.
Yep.
But for me, it just comes down to Jed. I think he's got phenomenal potential. He's got the technique. He's got the footwork that's out of this world, but it's just consistency. And I think that comes down to him personally and how bad he wants it. So
yeah,
that's just my opinion. I would say I'm going to grade him at an A minus for the offensive line.
Yeah. I'll be intrigued to see how Jed does with Deshaun. That'll be very interesting for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, I wonder how much of it, because with guys like Jed, I mean, Tristan, so much of it is motivation when you have guys like that who maybe lack in, being mature or whatever you want to call it. If they don't want to play for a guy, I think that has a lot to do with it. So I think you'll see a step up there.
I'm hoping so, yeah.
But let's switch over to the defense, and let's start with the defensive end group. The two killers on top there, the 6'4", 6'5" Giants with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. And then you're looking at Isaac Rochelle, Chase Winovich, Alex Wright, Stephen Weatherly is there, Isaiah Thomas. They have Curtis Weaver still on the roster. I don't think he's on the roster, but
I thought they brought him back.
Did they bring him back? I did not notice that.
I don't remember. Huh.
Well, if they did, even better. So, What would you grade that defensive end room?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna shock everybody. I'm gonna say an A plus. I think that with Myles and Clowney, you've got the best rushing duo in the league. I'll say it. And then you've also got really good depth, lots of potential. You've got Chase Winovich, who, his rookie year was electric off the edge. You've got, Alex Wright, who's got a bunch of potential. And then you've got a couple of vets in there that I like a lot. And Isaiah Isaiah Thomas, right? The defensive end out of Oklahoma. He's also really good, who has a lot of potential. So, I think there's a lot there, and I'm gonna put it at an A+.
Yeah, it's funny you say you're going to shock people, but I I was going to say the same thing. I have it as a clear A+. I think the defensive end room and the running back room is probably my clearest two A+.
Yeah.
Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett are the perfect pairing. And then behind them, you drafted a guy in Alex Wright who's Jadeveon Clowney 2.0 with more skills, just needs to be molded a little bit. And then you have, who I love, and Chase Winovich, who's got a ton of potential, comes off the edge firing, never gives up, just ruthless. Rochelle's a solid depth piece. We'll see if he makes the team. I really like Curtis Weaver. I was kind of surprised how his time in Cleveland went, to be honest. But if he is back, I like him as a depth piece. I don't know if he makes the roster, but
Yeah.
Weatherly is what he is. Isaiah Thomas, I think, is phenomenal. I wouldn't be surprised if one day we're sitting here, hopefully still doing this podcast, and we're talking about Isaiah Thomas being a elite number 2 defensive end. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Alex Wright and Isaiah Thomas is our two guys when Miles goes.
Yes,
but
yes.
only Krebs is that, but that's not going to be for a while, I don't think.
Yeah, I couldn't be any happier with the depth here for us at defensive end. And I just lost my phone. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's back. So defensive end's an A+ for the both of us. Let's move into defensive tackle. A little bit of a different story. You have Taven Bryant, Sheldon Day, Jordan Elliott, Glenn Logan, Roderick Perry II, Tommy Togiai, Perrion Winfrey. And that is your defensive tackle room. What would you grade it?
I'm going to grade it a D. I think that I love Perrion Winfrey. I really do. I think Taven Bryant can be decent for us. There's a couple of decent guys in there, but I mean, it's really like there's so many unproven guys and guys that have to step up in order for this room to play at an NFL acceptable level. That's pretty much my phrasing of it. Like there's going to have to be a lot of dudes that outperform what they did last year, like twofold, threefold, like there's a lot of potential there. It could be a room at the end of the year we grade as a B, right? But there's just so much unproven guys there. So many unproven guys, I should say. So I'm going to give it a D.
Yeah. Not as high on this room, clearly. I was going to grade it at a C-. Taven Bryant, I think, has a lot of potential still left. I mean, you're talking about a former first-round pick. Yeah. I think he might fit better in this defense. I love Tommy Togiai because I've been watching him for so many years. I know the talent he has. I'm just kind of waiting for him to unlock it at the next level. Perrion, I think, is going to be an absolute stud. We've talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
But even him is going to take some time. And Sheldon Day's solid. Jordan Elliott, it sucks, unfortunately. I think he's gotten a little bit better. But, I mean...
I was not expecting you to say that. That totally caught me off guard.
When you look at this defensive tackle room, it's lacking that one proven guy, I think. And I believe that Perrion can be that person, but for this season, it might be rough. That's why I'm kind of counting on some of these other defensive ends who can kick in. Clowney can kick in. Miles can kick in. Wright. Thomas if you need him. Rochelle. So I'm kind of more so banking on that to help out with that defensive tackle room.
Yeah.
But not good.
And you said Jordan Elliott sucks. Apparently he's been having a solid camp. That's why I've been hearing. But, that was obviously OTAs. They can't really do anything on the line. But, I mean, he got working with the first stringers. So, I mean, this is either going to be like you're going to have egg on your face and you're going to look dumb with Jordan Elliott, or people are going to be like, oh, yeah, you were totally right. When you say
dude,
that.
Here's the thing.
look, his 3 years in Cleveland so far, no, not been good enough, right? But I don't know. There's chances here, but slim.
Well, dude, this is why I say this, because you're talking to somebody here who was thrilled we got Jordan Elliott. I couldn't have been any happier,
I was
because
too.
when you watch his Missouri tape, that boy is slippery, man. That he just slips right through blocks. Like, it was unbelievable. And I'm like, damn, dude, we finally got a defensive tackle who can get to the quarterback. And no, he hasn't done anything. It's been borderline embarrassing how bad he's been, because it's not really, I mean, he's a solid run defender, but his skill set is really that pass rush. It's slipping blocks and getting to the ball carrier, whether it be the quarterback or the running backs. And he just has not done that. And it's like, dude, you're going to be replaced. This is the NFL. You don't get 50 chances. So,
yeah. Well, and I mean, Malik McDowell came out of a jail cell and won that first string position over him. So that doesn't look good. So, yeah.
So defensive tackle room is not looking too hot at the moment. Let's move on to another interesting group, the linebacker core. So we have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who's obviously an absolute stud. We have returning Jacob Phillips, Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, Tony Fields, who we've not really seen yet, Willie Harvey, Silas Kelly, and recently signed Dakota Allen. So I don't think I forgot anybody.
I don't think you did either.
What's your thoughts on that linebacking room?
I really like it. Honestly, like, I love the potential with Jacob Phillips. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, I don't even need to say anything else. He's outstanding. He's got everything that you want out of a linebacker. Anthony Walker, I thought, was solid for us last year. And Sione Takitaki, he's been, if we're talking about Takitaki in general, his entire time in Cleveland, he's been like a beat. Like, not excellent, not terrible, about middle of the road, like solid. You can trust him, right? So, I'm gonna give this room, I'm gonna give it a B+. I like it. I like it a lot. I know some people hate this room. Some people don't like this room. I like it.
Well, let me piss some people off here for a minute. A-. Linebacking core, and I'll tell you why. JOK and Jacob Phillips, if they both can stay healthy, will be one of the best linebacking duos in the NFL. And I stand by that. JOK is obviously a monster. He's only going to improve. Jacob Phillips, people don't realize how good he is, because he's been obviously off the field a lot. But you're talking about a guy who is the most sure tackler I think the Browns have brought in a long time. I mean, he led that LSU defense, who was absolutely stacked with first-round talent at defensive on the defense, with guys like Patrick Queen, Delpit was there. There was just a ton of talent. And guess who led that team in tackles? It was Jacob Phillips. The guy flies to the ball. He's improved sideline to sideline. He's decent as far as, in coverage. I think Jacob Phillips is an absolute stud that we have just not seen yet. So those two in themselves are fantastic. Yeah. So going down the line here, like you talked about, Sione Takitaki has been pretty solid for the Browns. He's not been great. He's not been bad, but he's been pretty all right. He's been somewhat reliable. I think he's going to realize that he's going to be on his way out probably in Cleveland, and I think he's got to play up to, earning another contract. I think he's going to take a step up. Anthony Walker has been pretty consistent for the Browns. He wasn't as good as I hoped he would be, but I still think he's pretty good. He can take over and continue to be that veteran in that room. Kelly is what he is. Harvey's what he is. Dakota Allen has some potential. I think, he's a little bit older at 26, but we'll see what he can do. I know he's brought in to probably be a depth guy and preseason, see what he can do in camps. But the one wild card for me in this is Tony Fields, because Tony Fields, people have written off. He's not bad. He's really JOK light in a way. And if
Yeah.
he can get on the field and stay healthy, I could see him being a very valuable rotation linebacker to where it bumps this room up pretty significantly. So to me, it's top heavy, yes, but the potential depth there, I think, is really, really good. So I'm
Yeah.
going to grade it at an A minus, personally.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I mean, and like you said, Jacob Phillips, lots of potential. Tony Fields, you're absolutely right. A lot of people have written him off. I see him this year as more of a really good special teamer. However, as a rotational linebacker, I do think he could be really good. I do. I like this potential coming out of the draft. You know, obviously with the pick that we took him, we were going to take Evan McPherson, but didn't work out. Oh well. But Tony
Worked
Fields is
out
still
now.
a really good player. He's still a really good player. Yeah. Well, yeah, worked out
Absolutely.
now. But yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to the cornerback position. We have pretty solid room here, I would say. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and then behind him you have Greedy Williams, AJ Green, Martin Emerson, and then there's no really need to talk about the rest here, but you know, you have guys like Herb Miller who have played on special teams. So those are the only guys I'm going to name just because a lot of the other names on this list I don't see making it. So how would you grade the Cleveland Browns cornerback room?
A plus. It's really easy. You've got the depth. That it's really good depth. AJ Green proved that he can play as a starting slot corner. We've got Greedy Williams who's proven he can play as boundary corner. You know, and on top of that, you've got Denzel Ward, who's one of the best corners in football. He locks down everybody. Only person that's beat him one-on-one has been Devontae Adams, who's the best receiver in football, who's playing with the best quarterback in football. So that's the only guy who you could say really got him. Everybody else he's clamped down, including Jamar Chase, multiple times, by the way. You know, and then you've also got Greg Newsome, who last year, his rookie year, was unbelievable. And he was, you know, he wasn't as good as Denzel, but man, there were times where he was like, you know, I didn't notice the difference. Like if I was standing far enough away from the TV, I'd be like, wow, Denzel, you made a great play. And then I'd, you know, squint my eyes and see it was Greg Newsome. So, you know, yeah. So for me, this is an easy A+ with the depth and with the top tier talent.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome are, in my opinion, top. I try to have to think about the duos, but at least top 5. I would say probably top 3 duos.
I'd say Byron Jones and Xavier. What's the guy's name? I'm losing my mind. The guy from the Dolphins, Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard. Yeah. Those guys are probably number 1.
Yeah.
But we're up there for sure.
Yeah. But like you said, when you look at the depth here, Greedy Williams is not terrible. I've never understood the narrative that Greedy is some horrible corner who we should have never picked and all that. Greedy's good. He's a solid corner. Now, is he what I thought he would be? No. But if he can stay healthy and you use him in certain situations that fit him best, he can be great. I think he can be really, really great. AJ Green is absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe he went undrafted. I was thrilled when we got him as a UDFA. Clearly, he's been worth every penny. That's valuable depth. Like you said, he can play inside, he can play outside. You added, where's he at? Emerson.
Yep.
You added Emerson, which obviously I'm not as high on. But when you're talking about a guy who's going to come in and be a 5th string corner his first year, I mean, it is what it is. He can be very, very valuable in a certain situation, especially in his first year or two. So the cornerback room as a whole, give me an A+. Absolutely. So let's take a look here at the safety room. So we have Grant. Well, let's start off. John Johnson, Grant Delpit, Ronnie Harrison, DeAnthony Bell, Richard LeCount. We got a guy named Nate me doors. So take that with what you will. But what do you grade that safety room?
I'm gonna give it probably a B. I like it. I like Delpit. I think he's gonna have a great year this year. I like John Johnson. I think he's a really talented guy. I just don't think that we have a lot of guys that fit everything that we're looking to do. Like, I don't think that we have that elite zone coverage safety. I just don't think we have that. If we did, I'd have a lot more confidence in this room. Um, but I mean, early on in the season last year, this room sucked. I mean, we were looking at the John Johnson signing early in the year and saying, like, oh my gosh, like, we might be screwed. Like, that's how bad they were at the beginning part of the season. But then obviously they got better as the season went on. Towards the end of last year, we had one of the best defenses in football. So, it was a good room. And, my question marks are, who is going to step up and be the elite zone coverage guy in that safety room. If we had that guy, I'd probably rate this as an A or an A plus, but we just don't have it. And the depth, it's going to depend on how Richie LeCount rotates in my opinion. I like Richie LeCount. I think he's got a lot of potential, but he hasn't proven anything. So for right now, I'm going to say B.
Yeah. Okay. Let me trying to think. So I would probably agree with you at a B. I think that I was very disappointed the Browns did not take Vernon McKinley out of Oregon, because he is that free safety that I thought would be fantastic depth. But when you look at the safety room as it's currently constructed, obviously, Delpit, I think, is going to take a massive step forward. I hope they use John Johnson up in the box in the role that he's supposed to be playing in.
Mm-hmm.
Ronnie Harrison's decent. I'm not a big fan, but, whatever. I think Richard LeCount has a lot of potential. I think he could be really, really good. It's just going to be a matter of his development. D'Anthony Bell is not somebody to sleep on. He has some potential. We'll see. We'll see what happens in camp and stuff like that. So he's a rookie, and we'll see. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because when you have corners like we do, the safety room is a little bit not as important. But I think we have guys that can get the job done, and I think Delpit will take a massive step, and I think John Johnson will play his role. So I like it. I would grade it, like you said there, at probably a B. So
Yeah.
moving on to, or sorry, did you have something you wanted to add?
Oh no, I was just gonna say about special teams.
Oh, yeah, the most important group.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Special teams here. We have Cade York. We have Corey, can't pronounce that name. And that's it. Pretty much.
Corey Bjorquez. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen, Cody Bjorquez, he's a really good punter. He's one of the better punters in the league. I wouldn't put him in like top 5, but he's certainly within the top 10, in my opinion. Cannon of a leg. So, but with Cade York, I like his potential. I think he could be one of the best kickers in the league. But we just need to wait and see. So I'm going to give this room a C for right now. I think that, it's a really good group with a lot of potential, but I can't give it a high grade until I see Cade York go out and prove it.
Well, you might not be able to, but I will. A plus. A plus. Cade York is nailing 60-yard kicks daily. The dude's a beast. I couldn't be any happier, obviously, with him. Bjorquez, or however you pronounce him. We finally have consistency, I think, at the punter position.
Mm-hmm.
He played in Green Bay, so my concern would be how is a punter going to do in the cold, but he played in Green Bay. So, I mean,
Yeah.
he's proven. So I think when you look at those two, if you got a kicker who can nail 60-yard kicks every day in practice, I'm not too concerned. He's been consistent in big-time moments at LSU. I think he's reliable. I think that's what he's going to continue to be, reliable. And then when you have Corey, who's, punting bombs, and has proven that he's a really good punter. I think that combination is fantastic. I think it's great. It's just, to me, it's more of a matter of what Preef does with the return game and stuff like that. He's
That's
got
right.
to do a better job.
Yeah,
So
I agree. And Jakeem Grant, I mean, listen, this might end up being the best special teams in all football this year. You never know, but I don't want to go ahead of myself, when it comes to special teams, because we've had a lot of guys that we thought were going to be elite for us that didn't pan out, which I'm going to derail the show a little bit. And I'm going to say, I can't believe they never like Jamie Gillian. I can't believe they never gave him a chance as a kicker. Because I remember
I
when
know, yeah.
I remember in like preseason, there were like reports coming out that like he was hitting like 60, 70-yard kicks and that he was getting them stuck in the netting at practices. I don't know if you saw those pictures or not, but like he would quite literally, like the ball would get stuck in like the field goal netting because he'd kick it so dang hard, So I can't believe he's never really tried him out as a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He, I, I'll, I don't want to say I'll never forgive him what he did in the Chiefs game, but
Yeah,
jeez.
I know what you say. I know what you're saying. It's like one of those where it's like we really could have had those guys and gotten back at them. Ugh, thanks,
Yeah.
Shane. Thanks, Shane.
Yep. So there we go, everybody. There's your Cleveland Browns position by position group ranking. So let us know what you think on how the Browns roster stacks up. Tristan, you got anything else you want to say?
Not much. Just go Browns. Hopefully, we'll get some more developments on Baker and more developments on Deshaun, and maybe we see Joe Haden come to Cleveland. Who knows? But hopefully, we got some more news going deeper into the offseason, but we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yep, completely agree. So, everybody, be sure to give Tristan a follow, give me a follow. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. If you like it, drop a like. It greatly appreciate it. And if you really like it, subscribe. So, we're gonna keep doing this as hopefully, till we're dead. But hey, we're gonna keep going. So, everybody, thanks for watching. Appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good one.